Paradise Lost, widely regarded as John Milton's most renowned and esteemed work, faces an intriguing comparison to its sequel, Paradise Regained. Interestingly, the latter doesn't enjoy the same level of acclaim, much to Milton's chagrin. Published during Milton's time and still holding true today, Paradise Regained is deemed inferior by fans and readers, although it is not to be dismissed as subpar literature. Milton falls victim to his own success in this regard. But what of the story itself? Paradise Regained consists of approximately 2,000 lines, significantly shorter than the epic Paradise Lost, which boasts a staggering 10,500 lines. It comprises 4 books that follow the events of its predecessor. The narrative revolves around the Son of God, who descends to earth after being baptized by John the Baptist. He embarks on a 40-day journey in the desert, where he confronts the temptations presented by Satan. At its essence, this tale reflects a battle against sin and an individual's personal faith, akin to themes explored by Dante in his works. Overcoming various forms of sin and temptation necessitates the display of heavenly virtues. The first book commences at the Jordan River, where a congregation witnesses the baptism of Jesus by John the Baptist. At that moment, the heavens open, and a resounding voice proclaims Jesus as the Son of God. This proclamation marks the commencement of Jesus' journey toward fulfilling his role as the anointed Messiah. Satan, who witnesses this event, becomes aware of the Son of God's true identity. The revelation troubles him, for it brings him closer to his impending punishment and the imminent curtailment of his dominion over mankind. Returning to his council of demons, Satan discusses the implications of what he has witnessed. Determined to oppose the Son of God, he assumes the responsibility, confident that having already corrupted Adam and Eve, he can lead the Son of God astray as well. From the vantage point of heaven, God assures the angel Gabriel of his awareness regarding Satan's plan and dismisses any concerns about Satan's overconfidence. In fact, God reveals that Satan's scheme to corrupt his son aligns with his divine plan, serving as the ultimate test for his son's resilience. To clarify any confusion surrounding Satan and his followers, Paradise Lost concludes with the prophecy that they will be transformed into serpents, an impending punishment that will befall them once the Son fulfills his divine purpose. Since then, Adam and Eve have been expelled from Eden, and on earth, Satan and his followers have managed to sow the seeds of sin among mankind. Following his baptism, Jesus returns to his mother Mary and shares the revelation of his divine lineage. Mary proceeds to recount the extraordinary circumstances surrounding his birth. Now faced with the daunting task of assuming his role as the Messiah, Jesus retreats to the desert, where he fasts for 40 days and nights, seeking clarity on how to commence his mission. In Paradise Regained, we encounter a pivotal scene where Satan takes on the guise of an elderly man to tempt the Son of God, who is undergoing a rigorous fast. Satan observes the Son struggle with hunger and decides to test his ability to resist temptation. Approaching the Son, Satan offers him friendship, suggesting that there is no need for him to suffer the pangs of hunger. Instead, as the Son of God, he possesses the power to transform the stones around him into bread. However, the Son sees through the disguise and recognizes Satan's true identity. He rebukes Satan, stating that man does not solely rely on physical sustenance, but rather on the Word of God. Continuing with the narrative in Book 2, the Son of God continues his journey through the desert, contemplating the immense task that lies ahead. Meanwhile, Satan convenes with his council of demons, acknowledging that deceiving the Son of God will prove far more challenging than deceiving Adam and Eve. Belial suggests employing the strategy of using women to seduce the Son of God, drawing parallels to Solomon's downfall. However, Satan dismisses this plan, asserting that only a weak-minded individual would succumb to such tactics. Instead, he proposes a grander scheme, one that appeals to the promise of glory among men. Meanwhile, the Son of God grapples with hunger during his desert sojourn, but he must test his resilience until the appointed time determined by God. Closing his eyes, he awakens to find a well-dressed man standing before him, accompanied by a lavish banquet. Once again, this is Satan in disguise, who promptly vanishes the food when the Son of God declines his offer. Satan then tempts him with unimaginable riches, proposing that he could amass an army of followers. However, the Son of God firmly rejects the offer, emphasizing that great deeds do not necessitate vast wealth. He cites examples from the Bible, including King David, who began as a humble shepherd. What's intriguing here is the evolving nature of Satan's temptations. In Paradise Lost, Satan entices Eve to disobey God, leading her to commit an act of evil. This tactic succeeds due to Eve's limited understanding and connection with God compared to his son. However, as the Son of God possesses unwavering faith and a clear understanding of his mission, Satan alters his approach. Instead of luring him into direct disobedience, Satan presents him with a choice that involves demonstrating virtuous behavior, a dilemma between faith and what may appear to be the morally right course of action. Satan manipulates the cardinal virtues in his endeavor. Initially, when Satan approaches the Son of God, he offers him food. Accepting this offer could be perceived as a selfish act. On his subsequent encounter, Satan presents him with riches that could be utilized to feed and uplift countless followers, benefiting many. From an external standpoint, Satan offers the Son of God a choice, wherein rejecting the offer may also be seen as selfish. It provides an opportunity for the Son of God to exemplify the cardinal virtue of charity, aiding those in need. However, it involves placing faith in the timing of God's intervention. The dilemma emerges: should one wait and trust in God's eventual aid, or take immediate action to help others? Sadly, this intriguing and nuanced discussion on the appropriate choice remains unexplored. The Son of God consistently responds with biblical references and an unwavering belief in God's plan, offering little room for internal struggle or questioning. This aspect of Paradise Regained proves vexing to many, as the character's comprehension seems lacking, overshadowed by automated responses. In Milton's poems, the most complex characters are Satan and Eve. They exhibit a willingness to question, learn, and understand the world and its workings. Adam's character undergoes a similar transformation when Eve succumbs to Satan's temptation, forcing him to confront his own moral dilemma, choosing Eve over paradise and, consequently, severing his connection with God. Paradise Regained, however, lacks such dilemmas and moral choices for its characters. The Son of God encounters situations where he faces tough decisions, raising moral questions. However, he appears oblivious to the deeper meaning behind these tests, offering only rebukes and scriptural references. This predictability creates a frustrating dynamic between the Son of God and Satan, diminishing the story's tension. Moving forward, Satan plans to exploit the virtues of hope and faith in the subsequent books. In Book 3, Satan modifies his approach once more. Shifting his offer from riches to power, he complements the Son's wisdom while unleashing a barrage of insults, highlighting his perceived lack of achievements. Satan questions why the Son chooses to seclude himself in the wilderness instead of venturing into the world to accomplish greatness. He insinuates that the Son's confinement to his own thoughts and ideas has hindered his actions. However, the Son refutes these claims, stating his disinterest in attaining glory through evil and violence. Satan counters by asserting that seeking glory is not inherently wrong. Even God, the Son's own Father, seeks glory. The Son's feeble response asserts that seeking glory is wrong for mankind but acceptable for God, as it has been earned. Satan then takes the Son to a mountaintop, where he presents a view of kingdoms and armies. He urges the Son to choose any kingdom, promising the accompanying army to free his people and resist the Roman Empire. Once again, the Son delivers an unexpected reply. He states that the Israelites deserve enslavement for their sins and declares his intent to establish his own kingdom at the opportune time. This act denies the opportunity to offer hope to his people, as Satan intended. The Son's justification lies in the belief that his people's sins warrant punishment through enslavement. Book 4 continues from the mountaintop, where Satan reveals Rome to the Son and offers him the kingdom. Once more, the Son refuses, prompting Satan to question why he would not desire to overthrow such an evil leader. The Son reiterates that the suffering under the Roman Empire is deserved, as the Romans have forsaken virtues in pursuit of earthly pleasures. Instead, he implores patience, assuring that when his kingdom is established, all earthly monarchies will be toppled. Satan reaches a crucial moment in the poem where he realizes his efforts to divert the Son of God from his mission are futile. Despite offering him all the kingdoms and their submission, the Son of God remains unwavering. Satan attempts another tactic, showcasing the grandeur of Athens and the wisdom of philosophers like Socrates, Aristotle, and Plato. However, the Son of God dismisses this as false wisdom. Growing frustrated with his failed temptations, Satan abandons the Son of God in the desert during a raging storm. He subjects him to terrifying visions and nightmares, yet none of these threats can break his steadfast determination. The next day, Satan takes him to the pinnacle of the Temple of Jerusalem, urging him to prove his divinity by throwing himself off and trusting the angels to save him. This is where Satan seeks to test the Son of God's faith. While faith has been explored philosophically thus far, Satan challenges him to prove his divine identity with his own life at stake. However, the Son of God resists, rejecting Satan's temptation and quoting, "Tempt not the Lord thy God." With this unwavering response, Satan is left with no doubt that the Son of God is indeed Jesus himself, who had always believed in his divine nature. Satan, filled with disbelief, falls from the pinnacle and is defeated, compelled to return to his council of demons. Meanwhile, the angels sing songs of Jesus' triumph over Satan. Paradise Lost commenced with Satan's fall, and now Paradise Regained concludes with his fall as well. While Paradise Lost stands as a complete and revered literary work, its sequel is often overlooked. The most noticeable difference between the two stories lies in their writing styles. Paradise Lost features extravagant language, similes, and metaphors, crafting a vivid and interpretive narrative. In contrast, Paradise Regained adopts a simpler and more straightforward style, leaving little room for interpretation. Some argue that this stylistic shift was influenced by the clergy's preference for plain religious texts. However, it is worth noting that the transition into this style already began in the last two books of Paradise Lost. The intention behind providing this context is to address inquiries regarding the differing receptions of Paradise Lost and its relatively forgotten sequel, Paradise Regained.